Hello, Koby's Garden Buddies. I'm temporarily venturing beyond my usual plant profiles while acknowledging the importance of our overlapping relationships concerning living things, their care and the compassion, particularly for people, pets, plants, and our biosphere. I'm reading notes, so bear with me, although I won't be doing notes the whole time. My opening intention for the Koby's Garden Alchemy channel was to enlighten and entertain via nature, garden, design, and art-focused videos. And that is my intention to keep thriving into the future. Yet this pandemic is plucking on the human web of life so fiercely that I feel I must acknowledge it, while still addressing what may be helpful and nurturing by summoning some wisdom that I have gathered in my life and unfolding it for the benefit of humankind and nature. This video is not about blaming governments, politics, institution, regions, religions, race, social, or economic station. Disease pervades all strata. So, please, if you're going to comment, I'll be focusing my video on plants and people, and if I could keep the comments about that, I think that'd be a good thing. I've got a few thoughts about nature and the importance of how humans and nature have an inexorable exchange that needs to keep going on, and how important both are. In forests in particular, there have been some studies when they've done logging about clearing all the trees or leaving some trees. And interestingly enough, in some areas where some of the very largest trees, for whatever reason, they weren't able to cut down, or maybe they were too hard to get to or too big to haul away, when these nurse trees, as they call them, were left, the growth of the new forest happened much better than the growth of a completely cleared forest, starting from scratch. And in nature, there is relationships, both seen and unseen, and part of this is underground, and part of it is through the air, kind of vicariously. Some plants send messages through molecules through the air, and then some of them do it underground via mycorrhizal systems. And the importance of this exchange between both older and newer is very important. And that's why at a time like this, particularly with this pandemic going on, the seriousness of losing many people so soon, prematurely. I know it might be particularly some of the older ones, but the importance of all people and the knowledge and wisdom, particularly of some of the older people, many people, is something that's so heartfelt. Since I've been in Southern California, there have been several instances of very big fires, and one of them in particular was happening for days and days very nearby in the area where I lived. And I had been out one morning, and I could see with the friends and I that were out, we could see some smoke over in the distance and some clouds. And I have to say, on occasion, it could happen where there'd be a small fire, or maybe a building or something was on fire. And the first thought was, I wonder what's happening. And the second thought would be, I hope that it could be taken care of. I did not know on this morning going out that when I went back home, it was so bad so quickly. They had, to some degree, cleared the area around where I was living and told people to leave. And I have to say, right where I was at, there was not much vegetation nearby. In fact, very, very large open areas and nearby a highway. Over the course of this fire, we stayed home for, I believe it was 5 days. And fortunately, the fire never got what I would say would be too close. Could see smoke in the distance, and not so much in the daytime, but in the large valley that I live in, across the valley on the other edge at night. If I would go out and look for a while, I would see a line of fire near the ridge of the valley. It was very surreal. The sky was darkened and the sun was red in the middle of the daytime. It was eerie. It was scary. I was thinking I would be safe by just staying put, and we were. But writing this out was a very serious and difficult thing. And a lot of people, there was a lot of damage, and a lot of health issues. Similarly, in this time, with this pandemic, it makes me think yet again what to do to help ourselves, help others, and be safe. I'm going to tell you something that I've adopted some years ago. Hopefully some of this will be helpful to people. When cold and flu season come around, for me myself, I become highly aware and sensitive and conscientious the more I hear that it's around and the more severe it is. It heightens my awareness. And what I've done in past years, which I think has been helpful for me, is I become aware of everything I touch when I'm out in public. And I become aware of not touching my face during regular cold and flu season. So this is not a new thing. So it's, if I touch my face, I would try to get out a napkin, or I would take the inside of, not everybody wears stuff like this, but sometimes in the gardening I do, and I don't want to get my eye dirty, I'd take my finger in the inside of my shirt, and if I had to touch or itch something, it was effective for me. So I have to say, in these latter years, frequently I would get a cold or two or a flu or something, not always, but just about every year. And I have to say, there were years I think from being more careful, I get less colds and flus. So I'm just putting that out there to, I don't want to tell people what the news has already been telling people, but I want to tell by example a little bit more of how this works and is helpful for me. So heightened awareness of touching anything that anyone else touches. It's an airplane. Hopefully you can still hear me. And unless you're at home, until you've washed up, just be very, very careful. I think it's a very good habit to get in overall, year to year, or around any area where something's contagious. Also, something I want to mention, about 15 years ago, I caught something, and I'm not quite sure how. I caught a very nasty virus that had a terrible impact on my life. It was cytomegalovirus. I might have mispronounced that. Cytomegalovirus. I've looked it up, and when I've looked it up, it didn't seem to show too many major symptoms for too many people. It's a serious thing. I'll tell you how it affected me. I guess the closest relation I could give would be kind of like mono, where it pulls a person down and wipes the energy out entirely. And with me, it had a very, very strong manifestation that I kind of felt like I was going to faint. If I could get out and about, which I could at most days, I was not immobilized, but my energy would wipe out within an hour or two. I don't remember being particularly achy, but it felt like it got into the core of me and somehow squeezed down or robbed or pulled away my energy, like my batteries were down. So at first I thought that, what is this? Do I have like a chronic fatigue syndrome? And I was going to my doctor and I got tests and nothing was revealed. And but how can I live like this? Especially if I was feeling a little faint or dizzy, or it's hard to describe the low energy. It's very bad. A few months into it, for about 3 months, there were times that I thought the energy was going to go so low, I would just kind of fall asleep, or at its worst, stop breathing. The reason I'm mentioning this is I had a lot of downtime during this and I had to back off of work. I didn't stop work entirely. I had to work to make a living like many people do. And I was trying to figure out how I could live like this, what it would do for me, and if I would keep living. It was so bad on some days or some nights. I had noticed when I was out that there's a restaurant I like to go to that has a lot of salad, primarily. It's a big salad bar. And it's a place I've always liked to go to anyways. When I would have a full meal there that was mostly salad stuff, I would feel better and I would have better energy for about 6 or 8 hours. It was significant. I didn't feel like I was entirely myself again, just better. So it made such a difference that I was paying attention to it more. And I decided to try the things that at the time I knew or could think of. The doctor didn't give me any answers. They didn't know what was wrong. This was very, very frustrating for me. So I started shifting what I was eating to more vegetable inclined, kind of more vegetarian, not entirely, but I did very much less meat, very much less, and lots of vegetables. And I'm fortunate, and I'm one of those people that I actually really, really like fruits and vegetables a lot, and grains. Anyway, nothing made a huge difference right away, but did make a difference. When I could go out in places that had it, I was doing lots of shots of wheatgrass. I have to say that alone, I didn't notice a definite change. And it also depends on how they grow the wheatgrass, if it's inside grown or outside. They're grown in greenhouses. There sometimes can be I'm trying to remember if it's a fungus or a mold. It's very slight, very, very slight, but creates a bit of difference whether you get grass that's grown inside in a closed environment versus field grown. I'm just saying. I think the field grown stuff tasted better, cleaner, so for what it's worth. I was trying everything I could. I had fillings that I got taken out and replaced just with ceramic. And a very nice thing, I have to say, we'd been without a pet for a few years and I got a kitty. I'd been used to kitties. I grew up with some, so having pets, this is part of the tie-in that I talked about with people, plants, pets in the biosphere. Having a pet can help a person. It can help ease their mood and relax them and lower blood pressure and good stuff. Good stuff. Anyway, by continued, very, very careful diet, it helped, is what I can say. And about 5 months later, 5 or 6 months later, I'd gone to the doctor again because this just wasn't going away, and I was trying to figure out how I would have a future and how I would work and be productive and earn an income and many things, many things. The doctor had avoided doing one test. I think because it's not too common and it cost more, it was an Epstein-Barr test. When they did it, that revealed this cytomegalovirus. And I think to a minor degree, knowing was just a bit better for me than not knowing at all and wondering, and the fear of the unknown of why is this happening, how long is this going to happen. Somehow that little extra edge of knowing what is going on, it's hard to describe. They made a shift. It didn't make it go away. There's no cure for the virus. But it helped. So previous to that, I had been, prior to this disease, going to the gym and very active. And I was trying to go back again. I would swim, and I don't work out so much because I do enough gardening. It keeps me kind of nimble. But I was swimming a lot, and I really, really enjoyed that. I went to the gym, and there were times I was so tired. I needed to do something. I kind of knew I couldn't swim. I would go and take a shower, maybe 5 minutes, and put my clothes back on and go home. It was as much as I could do. I was just exhausted. As time went by, I kept doing this when I could. And even like washing my hair and shaking it like this, I would get so dizzy I had to brace myself against the wall. So my message about this is not just to say how harsh it is. My message about this is being careful. And I think nutrition played a very, very big portion of this. And trying as much as you can, even as slight as it can, to keep up with being active as well as you can, and keep at it. So I would go to the gym, and either on days or when some months had passed, I would just walk in the pool and do what I could for a few minutes, and if I got exhausted, I'd rest a bit and go back, and I'd go home. And I continued this, and very slowly over the course of, it was actually a few years, I did work. I was working mostly part-time, but I did work, and sometimes I couldn't do both. But I slowly developed swimming. I would do 5 minutes, and then until I got somewhat used to doing 5 minutes, then I would try to go up in 10 minutes, and 15 minutes, and 20 minutes. And this was over the course of, I'm not sure, many months, or it was a year or so. So once I had somewhat, just only barely somewhat, turned the corner after this, I was having a very teetering experience with my energy levels and how I was feeling for several years. And I think carefully, but very conscientiously, pushing myself little by little, I got better. There was even, so that was for about 3 years, and after that, for about 5 years, I guess slowly, barely got to these other levels. For about 5 years, I would have, the best way I could call it was almost flashbacks, or periods where I would sink into for some hours or part of a day, or sometimes they'd cluster into days where my energy would just slightly slump. And as time went on and I was more careful when I could to exercise and eat well, I slowly got better. I have to say now, I am just about back to normal, but it took it lowered me down kind of a peg. And I'm a few years older now than when this first started, because this was 15 years ago, and I want to say about for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been mostly what I would call back to normal. So, as much as you can, eat your fruits and vegetables, and be as active as you possibly can within what works for you. I'm purposely separating this little video foray into 3 sections because I think they all have different parts and I don't want to overload people. So one was this opening kind of about me and somewhat of what I do, and some kind suggestions. And the other 2 sections I have are on the garden of human kindness and garden therapy. So I hope in any little ways that if this has helped anyone at all, or just seeing or someone else kind of reach out and say hello and say do what you can, and sometimes with application that life can get a little better, even though it's hard at times. So, also, I'll show some more pictures. This is one of my gardens, and I like sharing nature with people because I think nature helps make life more fulfilling. So, make the best of what you still have while you have it. It's not about overindulgence. Life is about appreciation, action, and involvement. Do more, complain less, contribute something. I'll wrap up this section with some proactive lyrics from Sting, which weave through the song and repeat at the end. When the world is running down, you make the best of what's still around. Hi, thanks for joining me. If you found this video interesting or informative, or you think that other people might, please give me the thumbs up or subscribe on my YouTube channel. That way I'll know, and other people will know, that this is a good thing. There's a lot of treasures to explore out there, and it's fun to share them.